The first whispers did not come from the press. They came from inside palace corridors, where even senior aides seemed unusually cautious about what had just unfolded behind closed doors. A private meeting had ended, but the shockwaves were only beginning. And when Queen Camilla reportedly heard what King Charles had decided about the future line of succession, those closest to the royal household knew nothing would ever be quite the same again. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. At first, the palace did what it always does when uncomfortable questions begin to circulate. It stayed silent. No official statement appeared. No senior royal stepped forward to explain what had happened. Yet according to persistent reports emerging from royal circles, something significant had taken place behind closed doors. The meeting itself was said to have included King Charles, Prince William, Princess Anne, and a select group of constitutional advisors whose presence alone was enough to raise eyebrows among seasoned royal watchers. These were not the people called together for routine discussions. These were the individuals often brought into conversations that could shape the future direction of the monarchy itself. What made the situation even more intriguing was the atmosphere that reportedly followed. Palace staff who were accustomed to navigating sensitive matters allegedly noticed a level of secrecy that felt different. Conversations ended abruptly when others entered rooms. Documents were reportedly moved through private channels. Even trusted aides seemed reluctant to discuss what had been decided. For an institution built on tradition and carefully managed messaging, such unusual caution immediately sparked speculation. Something important had happened, and those closest to the crown appeared determined to keep it contained. The timing only intensified the mystery. For months, concerns surrounding King Charles's health had quietly fueled discussions about the future. While the monarch continued carrying out his duties, insiders reportedly claimed that long-term planning had accelerated behind the scenes. Questions that once seemed distant suddenly felt urgent. The stability of the crown, the continuity of the institution, and the future shape of the royal family were no longer theoretical subjects. They had become immediate priorities. According to various reports, the private discussions focused on exactly those concerns. Advisors allegedly presented recommendations designed to strengthen the monarchy for generations to come. Every possible outcome was reportedly examined. Every potential challenge was weighed. And somewhere within those discussions, a decision emerged that many insiders now describe as one of the most significant succession-related developments of Charles's reign. It was a decision that some believe would reinforce the future of William's branch of the family more strongly than ever before. What makes the story particularly dramatic is the claim that Queen Camilla was not fully aware of how those discussions were evolving. Palace whispers suggest she expected a very different outcome. Some insiders even claim she believed certain questions remained unresolved. If those reports are accurate, the eventual revelation would have come not as a routine update, but as a profound shock. The gap between expectation and reality can often be devastating, and according to those familiar with the situation, that gap may have been larger than anyone realized. As news of the alleged decision slowly filtered through royal circles, conversations reportedly intensified behind closed doors. Courtiers began quietly discussing the possible consequences. Some viewed the move as a necessary step to protect the monarchy's future. Others worried about the personal tensions it could create within the family itself. The debate spread carefully, almost cautiously, as though everyone understood they were witnessing the beginning of something larger than a single decision. Then came the rumors that changed everything. According to growing speculation, the finalized strategy strongly favored William's direct bloodline and placed extraordinary emphasis on the future roles of Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Suddenly, discussions about succession were no longer abstract constitutional matters. They became deeply personal questions involving legacy, influence, and the future balance of power within the House of Windsor. And as those rumors continued spreading through palace corridors, reports began surfacing that an emotional reaction had followed. The details remain heavily disputed. Different versions of events have emerged from different sources, yet one theme appears consistently throughout them all. Whatever Queen Camilla reportedly learned that day affected her profoundly. Those first whispers were no longer whispers at all. They were becoming the foundation of a royal controversy that threatened to expose tensions years in the making. But the decision that reportedly left Camilla devastated did not appear overnight. It was rooted in a succession debate that had been quietly building for years. For decades, the royal line of succession appeared settled and untouchable. Yet behind the public ceremonies and carefully managed appearances, senior figures were increasingly asking a difficult question. What kind of monarchy should survive the next generation? The whispers that had begun circulating after the secret palace discussions refused to disappear. Instead, they grew louder. What initially seemed like a single controversial decision was now revealing itself as part of a much larger story, one that had been unfolding quietly for years. At the heart of that story was a question that few inside royal circles could afford to ignore. The monarchy had survived wars, scandals, abdications, and family divisions, but could it survive the uncertainties of a rapidly changing future? According to reports from those familiar with palace conversations, that question became impossible to avoid as concerns surrounding King Charles's health continued to dominate private discussions. For generations, the royal line of succession had been viewed as the foundation upon which the entire institution rested. The Windsor legacy was not simply about titles or ceremonial duties. It was about continuity, stability, the belief that each generation would carefully pass the responsibility of the crown to the next. Palace insiders reportedly began emphasizing this principle with increasing urgency. As discussions about the future intensified, many senior figures allegedly argued that preserving the direct Windsor bloodline had become more important than ever. The focus was no longer on the present moment. It was on protecting the monarchy decades into the future. That shift in thinking naturally placed Prince William at the center of nearly every conversation. Reports suggest that advisors increasingly viewed him not simply as the heir to the throne, but as the cornerstone of the monarchy's next chapter. His role carried enormous weight. Every decision connected to the future seemed to lead back to him. Every long-term strategy reportedly revolved around preparing the institution for the day he would inherit the crown. The responsibility was immense, and according to palace sources, the urgency surrounding that responsibility only grew, as Charles's health challenges continued to cast uncertainty over the years ahead. Yet William was not the only figure drawing attention. Princess Catherine reportedly became an increasingly important symbol of continuity and stability. Her public image, her commitment to royal duty, and her growing influence within the family made her central to discussions about the monarchy's future identity. Alongside her stood Princess Charlotte, whose significance appeared to grow with every passing year. While still young, Charlotte reportedly came to represent something larger than herself in the eyes of many royal observers. She symbolized the future generation that would eventually inherit the consequences of decisions being made today. As those conversations expanded, so did concerns about maintaining constitutional tradition. According to insiders, duty and legacy became recurring themes in private meetings. Advisors reportedly stressed that the monarchy's strength had always depended on clarity of purpose. Confusion about priorities could create uncertainty. Uncertainty could create instability. And instability, many feared, could weaken the institution at a time when it needed strength the most. What appeared on the surface to be a discussion about succession was increasingly becoming a debate about survival. At the same time, another sensitive issue quietly emerged. Reports suggest that some figures within palace circles began expressing concern about the future influence of family branches outside the direct line of succession. These discussions were delicate and often uncomfortable. Nobody wanted to create divisions. Nobody wanted to fuel speculation. Yet, according to persistent whispers, the topic continued resurfacing behind closed doors. Questions about long-term influence, future priorities, and the balance of power within the royal household reportedly became impossible to ignore. As those debates continued, Queen Camilla's position allegedly became more complicated. While she remained queen consort and an important figure within the institution, reports suggest that evolving conversations about future generations placed increasing focus elsewhere. Every new discussion about continuity seemed to strengthen attention on William, Catherine, George, Charlotte, and Louis. Every conversation about the distant future appeared to reinforce the importance of the direct line. Whether intentional or not, that shift reportedly created growing sensitivities within royal circles. By this stage, palace insiders claimed the pressure was becoming difficult to contain. Senior advisors reportedly wanted clearer answers. Courtiers wanted certainty. Long-term planners wanted a roadmap for the decades ahead. The future could no longer be left to assumptions. It needed structure. It needed direction. And according to those closest to the discussions, that growing pressure would soon produce a proposal capable of reshaping everything. As those debates intensified, reports suggest one proposal began gaining support, a proposal that would eventually reach the king's desk. The proposal was never intended for public consumption. According to royal insiders, it was drafted quietly, reviewed carefully, and discussed only among a small circle of trusted advisors. Yet its implications were enormous. As pressure continued building behind palace walls, the demand for clarity became impossible to ignore. The monarchy was entering a period of uncertainty, and according to reports from those familiar with internal discussions, senior advisors increasingly believed that vague expectations about the future were no longer enough. The institution needed a plan, not a temporary solution, not a collection of hopeful assumptions. A genuine framework designed to guide the crown through the challenges that might lie ahead. It was within that atmosphere of caution, urgency, and growing concern that a proposal reportedly began taking shape. Unlike the rumors spreading through royal circles, this was not something created overnight. Insiders claim the document evolved through numerous discussions involving constitutional experts, senior advisors, and individuals whose responsibility extended far beyond day-to-day royal affairs. Every word was reportedly examined carefully. Every recommendation was debated. The objective, according to sources, was straightforward yet enormously significant: create a succession framework capable of protecting the monarchy for future generations, while minimizing uncertainty during times of transition. What immediately made the proposal controversial was its central focus. Reports suggest that the framework concentrated overwhelmingly on strengthening Prince William's branch of the family. While succession has always followed established constitutional principles, insiders claim this proposal sought to reinforce those principles in ways that left little room for ambiguity. The future, according to those familiar with the recommendations, would be built firmly around the direct line of inheritance. Everything else would become secondary. As discussions continued, increasing attention reportedly shifted toward the next generation. Prince George emerged as a critical symbol of continuity. Princess Charlotte's importance appeared to grow significantly within long-term planning conversations. Prince Louis was likewise viewed as an essential part of the monarchy's future identity. According to palace whispers, advisors repeatedly emphasized the need to prepare not only for William's eventual reign, but for the generations that would follow him. The framework allegedly treated these young royals not simply as family members, but as the foundation upon which the future stability of the crown would depend. That emphasis reflected a broader argument reportedly gaining traction among constitutional experts. According to sources, many believed that a streamlined monarchy would be better equipped to navigate future challenges. Public expectations were changing. Political realities were evolving. The institution, some argued, needed greater clarity regarding who would occupy its central roles in the decades ahead. Supporters of the proposal allegedly viewed this approach as practical and necessary. Critics, however, worried about the consequences that such prioritization could create within the wider royal family. The deeper the discussions went, the more sensitive they became. Reports suggest the framework placed overwhelming importance on direct heirs, while reducing emphasis on extended branches of influence. To supporters, this represented a logical continuation of constitutional tradition. To others, it carried potentially significant personal implications. Every recommendation seemed to draw an invisible line between the future being actively prepared and the future gradually being left behind. King Charles reportedly approached the matter with great caution. According to insiders, he spent weeks reviewing the recommendations. Advisors allegedly presented arguments from multiple perspectives. Some emphasized long-term institutional stability. Others focused on family dynamics and the potential emotional consequences. The decision was never as simple as choosing between competing strategies. It involved balancing duty with personal relationships, tradition with modern realities, and constitutional responsibility with deeply human concerns. As those weeks passed, divisions reportedly emerged among palace officials. Some believed the proposal represented exactly the kind of decisive planning the monarchy required. Others feared it could create tensions that would be difficult to contain. Conversations grew increasingly intense behind closed doors. Every side understood the stakes. Every side recognized that whatever choice Charles ultimately made would influence the future direction of the monarchy for years to come. Perhaps most intriguingly, reports suggest Queen Camilla remained largely outside the most sensitive discussions. While accounts differ regarding exactly how much she knew, palace whispers consistently indicate that the inner circle surrounding the proposal remained remarkably small. The most consequential conversations allegedly occurred among advisors and senior royals, tasked with safeguarding the institution's future. If true, that separation would later become one of the most controversial aspects of the entire story. By this point, the proposal had evolved far beyond a simple recommendation. It had become a test of priorities, a test of loyalties, and ultimately a test of what kind of legacy King Charles wished to leave behind. The framework now sat before him, carrying the weight of generations and the expectations of those determined to secure the monarchy's future. All that remained was the king's decision. What happened next would transform a private recommendation into a royal decision and create one of the most dramatic moments of Charles's reign. When the moment finally arrived, there was no grand announcement, no public ceremony, and no dramatic speech. There was simply a decision that some insiders now describe as the most consequential succession choice of Charles' reign. For weeks, perhaps even months, the future of the monarchy had been hanging in the balance behind closed palace doors. Advisors had presented their arguments. Constitutional experts had offered their recommendations. Senior royals had weighed the risks and responsibilities attached to every possible outcome. The proposal that had quietly moved through the highest levels of royal discussion was no longer just a document filled with recommendations. It had become a test of leadership, a test of legacy, and ultimately it became a decision that only one man could make. According to reports from royal insiders, King Charles spent considerable time examining every aspect of the succession framework before him. This was not merely a question about the present generation. The implications stretched decades into the future. Every recommendation carried consequences that would extend beyond his own reign. Sources suggest Charles understood that whatever path he chose would influence the monarchy long after he was gone. That realization reportedly weighed heavily on him as he reviewed competing arguments from advisors and senior officials. Then came the moment when uncertainty reportedly gave way to resolution. Palace whispers suggest Charles formally approved the strategy that had been steadily gaining support among those responsible for safeguarding the institution's future. It was not an impulsive decision, nor was it one driven by short-term considerations. According to those familiar with the discussions, the king's choice reflected a growing belief that the monarchy needed stronger clarity about where its future truly lay. The decision reportedly reinforced what many advisors had been advocating from the beginning: the direct path of succession through Prince William and his children. While that line already existed constitutionally, insiders claim the approved framework strengthened its significance in both practical planning and long-term strategy. The future would increasingly revolve around preparing William for kingship and ensuring that Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis occupied central positions within the monarchy's evolving structure. Supporters of the move reportedly described it as an act of protection rather than exclusion. According to palace sources, advisors argued that the institution faced growing challenges in a rapidly changing world. Public expectations were evolving. The role of the monarchy itself was constantly being scrutinized. In that environment, they believed uncertainty could become dangerous. A clear succession vision, they argued, would provide stability at a time when stability mattered more than ever. One figure whose name repeatedly surfaced throughout these discussions was Princess Anne. Reports suggest Anne strongly supported efforts to reinforce long-term continuity. Throughout her life, she had developed a reputation for placing duty above personal considerations, and insiders claim she viewed the framework through exactly that lens. To those who shared her perspective, the issue was never about personalities. It was about ensuring that the institution remained strong enough to survive future generations. Prince William reportedly shared a similar outlook. Sources claim he viewed the recommendations not as a personal victory, but as a necessary step towards securing the crown's future. Those close to royal operations suggest William understood the enormous responsibility awaiting him. Every discussion about succession ultimately pointed toward the role he would one day inherit. According to insiders, he believed the monarchy required decisive planning rather than vague assumptions about what the future might bring. As word of the king's decision quietly began spreading among senior courtiers, many reportedly recognized its significance immediately. This was not simply another internal administrative adjustment. It represented a turning point. The balance of influence within palace circles appeared to be shifting. Long-term priorities were becoming clearer. Future expectations were being defined more explicitly than ever before. Those who understood royal history recognized that such moments rarely occur without consequences. Yet despite the growing awareness among insiders, the wider public remained completely unaware of what had happened. No announcement was issued, no explanation was offered. Instead, preparations reportedly began behind the scenes to inform key members of the royal family. Conversations were scheduled. Sensitive discussions were planned. Advisors allegedly worked carefully to manage what they knew could become an emotionally charged situation. Because while supporters viewed the decision as a necessary step toward protecting the monarchy's future, not everyone was expected to welcome the outcome. In fact, according to persistent palace whispers, one individual was about to receive news that would reportedly trigger one of the most dramatic reactions of the entire saga. But while supporters viewed the decision as necessary, one person reportedly saw it very differently. Few expected the reaction that reportedly followed. For years, Camilla had navigated palace politics with remarkable resilience. Yet insiders claim this moment struck deeper than any previous controversy. By the time the decision reached its final stage, those closest to the royal household already understood its significance. The succession framework had moved from proposal to policy. The debates had ended. The recommendations had been approved. What remained was the difficult task of informing the people whose lives would be affected by it. According to persistent palace reports, it was during this sensitive period that Queen Camilla was finally made aware of the full scope of King Charles's position regarding the monarchy's future. Exactly how the information was delivered remains the subject of intense speculation. Different accounts continue to circulate among royal observers, each offering a slightly different version of events. Yet despite those differences, one detail appears repeatedly throughout the various reports. Sources claim Camilla was deeply surprised by how comprehensive the strategy had become. What some believed would be a routine succession discussion had reportedly evolved into a far-reaching vision for the future of the crown, one that placed overwhelming emphasis on William and the next generation of direct heirs. For years, Camilla had demonstrated an ability to withstand scrutiny, controversy, and public debate. She had survived periods of criticism that might have overwhelmed others. She had adapted to changing circumstances and navigated the complex realities of royal life with determination. That history is precisely why the reaction described by insiders has generated so much attention. According to palace whispers, this was not viewed as just another disagreement. This was something far more personal, something that touched questions of legacy, influence, and place within the institution she had spent years helping to support. Reports suggest the realization came gradually rather than all at once. As details of the approved framework became clearer, questions reportedly began to emerge about what the future would look like under the new priorities. The emphasis on William's branch of the family appeared unmistakable. The increasing focus on Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis seemed equally clear. According to insiders, the broader message became difficult to ignore. The monarchy's future was being defined with greater precision than ever before, and that future appeared centered almost entirely on the direct line of succession. It was during this period that rumors of emotional exchanges began spreading through royal circles. The details remain unverified, but palace sources describe an atmosphere of extraordinary tension behind closed doors. Conversations reportedly became more difficult. Emotions allegedly ran higher than usual. Senior household staff, accustomed to managing sensitive situations, were said to have noticed the strain almost immediately. What had begun as a constitutional discussion was now producing very human consequences. Courtiers reportedly found themselves discussing questions that extended far beyond official policy. What would this mean for future influence within the household? How would relationships evolve under the new structure? What role would various members of the family play as the monarchy moved toward its next chapter? These questions did not come with simple answers. And according to insiders, the uncertainty only deepened the tension already spreading through palace corridors. As speculation intensified, reports suggest several planned engagements and routine royal activities became overshadowed by private concerns. Official duties continued, as they always do within the monarchy, but conversations behind the scenes reportedly focused elsewhere. The approved succession strategy had become the dominant subject of discussion. Every new rumor fueled fresh debate. Every whispered detail seemed to generate even more questions. According to sources familiar with the situation, King Charles reportedly attempted to explain the reasoning behind the decision. Those close to the discussions claim he viewed the move as necessary for long-term stability rather than personal preference. The objective, insiders suggest, was to secure the future of the institution during a period of growing uncertainty. Yet even the most carefully reasoned explanations could not entirely erase the emotional impact of the decision itself. As the days passed, the fallout reportedly extended beyond the immediate participants. Royal circles buzzed with speculation. Courtiers exchanged theories. Observers attempted to understand what the decision might ultimately mean. The emotional response that followed had become a story in its own right, but beneath the personal reactions, a much larger reality was beginning to emerge. Because the true significance of Charles's decision was never limited to a single conversation or a single response. It was connected to a broader transformation that would soon affect the entire balance of power within the monarchy. Yet the immediate reaction was only part of the story, because the broader implications would soon become impossible to ignore. Almost overnight, attention shifted away from the controversy and toward the future. And at the center of that future stood Prince William. The emotional shockwaves surrounding the king's reported decision had not fully settled, yet something remarkable was already beginning to happen inside royal circles. Conversations that had once focused almost entirely on reaction and controversy gradually started moving in a different direction. The questions were no longer centered solely on who felt disappointed, who felt excluded, or who disagreed with the outcome. Instead, attention began turning toward a far bigger issue. If this succession strategy truly represented the monarchy's long-term vision, what exactly would the future now look like? According to palace insiders, one answer appeared increasingly clear. Prince William had emerged from the entire process with a stronger position than ever before. For years, he had been viewed as the inevitable future king. That reality had never been in doubt. What reportedly changed was the degree to which the institution itself began organizing around that future. The framework approved by Charles was said to place extraordinary emphasis on preparing William, not only to inherit the crown, but to shape the monarchy's next era. Every major discussion seemed to lead back to the same conclusion. The future was no longer being imagined in broad terms. It was being built around a specific vision, and William stood firmly at its center. As this shift became more apparent, attention naturally expanded beyond William himself. According to reports, palace planners increasingly focused on the next generation of heirs. The future was no longer measured in years, it was measured in decades. Prince George represented continuity. Princess Charlotte represented stability and modern relevance. Prince Louis represented the generation that would eventually carry the monarchy even further into the future. Together, they reportedly became central figures in discussions about long-term planning. The institution was no longer thinking only about the next reign. It was thinking about the next several generations. Alongside this transition came another development that insiders claim was impossible to overlook. Princess Catherine's influence reportedly continued to grow. For years, she had earned respect through consistency, discipline, and a careful commitment to royal duty. Now, according to palace whispers, her role was becoming even more significant. As William's future position strengthened, Catherine's importance naturally expanded alongside it. Many observers reportedly viewed her as a key figure in maintaining public trust and providing stability during future transitions. The stronger William's future appeared, the more central Catherine seemed to become. Perhaps no member of the younger generation attracted more attention than Princess Charlotte. Reports suggest growing public interest in her future role began accelerating following news of the succession strategy. While constitutional realities remained unchanged, Charlotte increasingly became a symbol of continuity for many royal observers. Discussions about the monarchy's future frequently included her name. Questions about her responsibilities, her future position, and her eventual influence became subjects of widespread fascination. According to insiders, this growing focus reflected the broader effort to strengthen the direct line of succession for generations to come. Throughout all these developments, palace officials reportedly continued emphasizing the same message: stability, continuity, long-term security. Those words appeared repeatedly in discussions surrounding the decision. Supporters argued that the framework provided exactly what the monarchy needed during a period of uncertainty. Rather than leaving future questions unresolved, the institution was reportedly creating a clearer path forward. Whether one agreed with the strategy or not, few could deny its significance. As the implications became clearer, senior royals allegedly began adjusting to the new reality. Expectations shifted, assumptions changed, conversations evolved. Individuals who once occupied central positions within certain discussions reportedly found themselves navigating a different landscape. Others discovered their future importance had increased considerably. The decision had done more than settle a succession debate. It had subtly reshaped the institution itself. Outside palace walls, public fascination only intensified. Every rumor generated new headlines. Every development sparked fresh speculation. People wanted to understand what this meant for William, for Catherine, and especially for the younger generation, who would one day inherit the responsibilities now being carefully prepared for them. Yet while growing numbers focused on the future heirs, a deeper question continued lingering beneath the surface. Because every shift in influence inevitably affects someone else. Every consolidation of power changes the balance within the institution. And as William's position appeared stronger than ever, many began wondering who might hold less influence in the years ahead. But while William's position appeared secure, many wondered what this meant for the broader balance of power inside the royal household. Every major royal decision creates winners and losers. The challenge for the monarchy is ensuring those divisions never become visible. According to insiders, that challenge was now being tested. As the implications of the succession strategy continued spreading through royal circles, the atmosphere surrounding the monarchy reportedly became increasingly complex. What had started as a private discussion about long-term planning was now influencing conversations across multiple layers of the institution. The focus was no longer solely on the decision itself. The focus had shifted toward its consequences. Because whenever the future is redefined, people inevitably begin asking who benefits, who loses influence, and what the new reality might look like once the dust settles. According to palace insiders, differing viewpoints began emerging almost immediately. Some courtiers reportedly welcomed the direction Charles had chosen. They viewed the strategy as a practical response to modern challenges. In their eyes, the monarchy needed clarity, it needed structure, it needed a stronger focus on the direct line of succession if it hoped to maintain stability in the decades ahead. These supporters argued that streamlining future priorities was not an act of exclusion but an act of preservation. To them, the decision represented careful planning rather than controversy. Yet not everyone viewed the situation through the same lens. Other insiders reportedly worried less about constitutional strategy and more about personal consequences. They understood that royal institutions may operate through rules and traditions, but families operate through emotions. Behind every succession plan are real relationships. Behind every decision are individuals forced to adapt to changing circumstances. According to reports, concerns quietly emerged about how these shifting priorities might affect dynamics within the family itself. The questions were uncomfortable because they carried no easy answers. At the center of these tensions stood King Charles. According to sources familiar with the atmosphere inside royal circles, the king increasingly found himself balancing two competing responsibilities. On one side stood duty, the obligation to protect the institution entrusted to him, the responsibility to think beyond the present and secure the monarchy's future. On the other side stood personal relationships, emotional realities, and the inevitable consequences that accompany difficult decisions. Insiders claim this balancing act became one of the defining challenges of the entire episode. Throughout these discussions, Princess Anne reportedly remained one of the strongest voices advocating for institutional stability. Sources suggest she consistently approached the issue from the perspective of duty rather than sentiment. For Anne, according to palace whispers, the question was never about individual preferences. It was about safeguarding continuity, protecting the crown, ensuring that future generations inherited an institution capable of enduring whatever challenges lay ahead. Whether others agreed with her or not, her position reportedly remained remarkably consistent throughout the debate. As a result, the conversation surrounding the monarchy's future continued expanding. What initially appeared to be a succession matter gradually evolved into a broader discussion about the direction of the institution itself. What kind of monarchy would emerge in the coming decades? How much influence should remain concentrated around the direct heirs? What balance should exist between tradition and adaptation? According to insiders, these questions increasingly dominated private discussions among advisors and senior figures. Outside palace walls, the situation became even more complicated. The absence of official explanations created space for speculation to flourish. Media reports multiplied. Commentators offered competing interpretations. Every rumor generated another wave of analysis. Every whispered detail seemed to fuel additional questions. Despite the palace maintaining its characteristic silence, public fascination only intensified. The more information remained hidden, the more people wanted to know. This growing speculation produced an unexpected consequence. The discussion was no longer confined to what Charles had decided. Attention increasingly shifted toward how future historians might interpret the moment. Was this a bold act of leadership designed to strengthen the monarchy for generations? Was it a necessary adjustment to changing realities? Or would it be remembered as a turning point that fundamentally altered the balance of influence within the royal household? According to insiders, these questions began appearing with surprising frequency. As debate intensified, one thing became increasingly clear. The succession framework was never simply about administrative planning. It represented competing visions of the monarchy's future. Competing ideas about duty, legacy, continuity, and influence. The emotional reactions, political consequences, and public speculation were all symptoms of something larger. Beneath every headline and every rumor was a deeper story about what the crown ultimately represents and who would shape its future. And as speculation reached its peak, the deeper meaning behind Charles's decision finally began to emerge. In the end, this story may not be remembered for the shock, the controversy, or even the reported collapse. It may be remembered for what it revealed about the king himself. As the rumors, reactions, and speculation continued swirling around the royal household, a different perspective slowly began to emerge. Beneath the headlines, beneath the palace whispers, and beneath the emotional fallout that reportedly followed the succession decision, many observers found themselves asking a much larger question. What had truly motivated King Charles? Was this simply another internal royal dispute, or was it something far more significant? According to those who have followed the monarchy closely, the answer may ultimately define how this chapter is remembered for generations to come. Throughout his reign, Charles has often found himself balancing two competing realities. One is personal. It involves family relationships, emotional loyalties, and the human side of royal life that rarely becomes visible to the public. The other is institutional. It involves safeguarding a monarchy that has existed for centuries and ensuring that it remains strong enough to survive long after any individual royal is gone. According to palace insiders, this succession decision appeared to force those two realities into direct conflict. And when the moment arrived, Charles reportedly chose the institution. That choice, according to supporters of the strategy, reveals the deeper meaning behind everything that followed. Reports suggest the king ultimately placed continuity above personal considerations. Not because the decision was easy, not because it came without consequences, but because he believed the future of the crown demanded clarity. The monarchy, insiders claim, was facing a period of profound transition. Questions about leadership, stability, and long-term direction could no longer remain unanswered. A decision had to be made, and Charles reportedly decided that protecting the institution would take precedence over every other consideration. As a result, the future of the monarchy increasingly came into focus around a single vision. Prince William and his children reportedly emerged as the centerpiece of long-term planning. The framework that generated so much discussion was never merely about succession order. That order already existed. Instead, according to those familiar with the conversations, it was about preparing the institution around that future reality. Every strategic conversation, every long-term plan, and every discussion about continuity appeared to point toward the same destination. The next chapter of the monarchy would be built around William's generation. Alongside that shift came growing recognition of Catherine's importance. Over time, she has increasingly been viewed as a central figure in shaping the monarchy's future image. Reports suggest that palace officials see her as a symbol of stability, responsibility, and continuity. As William's role strengthened, Catherine's significance reportedly grew alongside it. Together, they came to represent the future many insiders believed the institution was preparing to embrace. Yet while supporters focused on stability and continuity, others could not ignore the emotional consequences. According to palace whispers, Camilla's reported reaction became a powerful reminder that royal decisions are never purely constitutional. They affect real people. They reshape relationships. They create moments of disappointment alongside moments of triumph. The very decision that some viewed as necessary for the crown's future was reportedly experienced by others as deeply personal. That contrast between institutional success and personal suffering became one of the defining themes of the entire story. Perhaps that is why so many observers continue debating the significance of this moment. The monarchy has always demanded sacrifice. Again and again throughout history, personal wishes have reportedly been set aside in favor of duty. Individual preferences have often yielded to institutional needs. According to many royal commentators, This situation appears to fit within that long tradition. Whether one agrees with the decision or not, it reflects a recurring reality at the heart of royal life. The crown often asks for choices that ordinary families never have to make. Looking ahead, historians may eventually view this period as far more than a palace controversy. They may see it as a pivotal moment in the evolution of the modern monarchy. A moment when long-term planning took priority over short-term comfort. A moment when the future direction of the institution became clearer than it had been in years. A moment when King Charles faced one of the defining tests of his reign and reportedly chose the path he believed would best protect the crown. And so the story that began with whispers behind palace walls now arrives at a larger conclusion. The debates, the tensions, the reactions, and the speculation all point toward a monarchy entering a new chapter. The House of Windsor continues moving forward, shaped by decisions that will influence generations yet to come. The future remains uncertain. New challenges will inevitably emerge. New controversies will undoubtedly follow. But according to those closest to the institution, the foundation for the next era has now been established. Because behind every royal decision lies a choice between personal loyalty and the survival of the crown. And according to palace whispers, King Charles has now made the choice that could define his entire legacy. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.